Hi, so I want to talk about Heidegger again tonight because I'm writing my critical question paper on him and I just got to get this stuff straight in my mind. It has to be about 1,000 words and I haven't started it yet. It's due on Tuesday and it's Friday night. But I'm having trouble coming up with a critical question to it because I like the philosophy so much and agree with it so much. So, I don't know how to start right with it. Like, we started with Husserl, and Husserl kind of coined the term of phenomenology. Phenomenology was already used by Hegel in the Phenomenology of Spirit, which was published in like the mid 18th century, and Husserl was in, or the mid 19th century, and Husserl was at the end of it. So, but the way that Hegel was using it was more in a historical context of all consciousness, but Husserl was using it more in a reaction to empirical science and in an individual way, in the same way that the Cartesian revolution of the cogito worked. So his phenomenology is about his own consciousness, or just about consciousness of the individual as such, and it kind of goes back to some early Greek ideas of, I think it was Parmenides who was arguing that you can't have a thought about nothing. All thoughts are about something in external reality. So Husserl with phenomenology kind of took that to an extreme and said that consciousness as such and external reality are one thing. External reality is already like imbued with conscious utility, and consciousness is always directed towards that. So where Heidegger takes off from that is, I guess, now that we know all of this, the question is why, right? So Heidegger's main point of being in time is, what is the question of the meaning of being? What is the meaning of being, and how to analyze why that question matters to us. So he has this term Dasein, which is being there, which really kind of tries to put together all of the different feelings of what it means to be an individual who doesn't know why, right? So he talks about thrownness into the world, which is just the contingent placement of ourselves in relation to a world that seems to have its own practicality, whereas we don't. It has practicality for us anyway. And then, so that question of the meaning of being brings up another old ancient Greek idea, which is Meno's paradox, which Heidegger calls the circle of understanding. So that's the idea that when we're searching for something, we don't exactly know what it's going to be that we're searching for, and that's a necessity of searching as such. So, how do I have it here? You can't search for what you know because there's no reason to search for it if you already know what it is. You would just go find it. And you can't search for what you don't know because then you wouldn't know when you find it, right? So searching is complex like that, in that it's all for nothing, but yet still has the potential for meaningfulness. So that's Heidegger's constitutive concept, for sure. Another thing we wrote down here is, even in the question, what is being, that is already presupposed, and being itself is what that is pointing to. So what is being is kind of saying just being in itself, like what being. That's kind of weird. What is, I mean, is a better way to say it. So then, along with the things that I was talking about yesterday with the triangle, is this concept of the different types of triangles, is this concept of ready to hand, which is all about that utility that phenomenology is about. And so ready at hand is the fact that all of the entities, as Heidegger would call them, because he doesn't like to use the word things because that denotes a subject-object relationship, whereas it's not that for him. It's all one thing. So ready at hand denotes that utility that's in an entity, and there's different sorts of ways to put that, which is like before, there's towards, which, in order to, and for the sake of. So all of those different things are pointing towards the question of being. They're pointing towards the meaning of being. There are ways of asking the question of being, in a way. It's our way of acting the question for the meaning of being, if that makes sense. Which it doesn't. And another real fundamental thing about phenomenology is the distinction between I know and I can. So existentialists and phenomenologists would say we shouldn't really try to know things, we should try to do things, right? So saying I know, it just doesn't really get us anywhere, and I can is a much more practical approach to reality. And that would also be the distinction between ready at hand being I can, and present at hand, which is his other at hand thing. And present at hand is more like if the tool you have breaks down, then it's just something there for you to be aware of. It's something to analyze, but not be able to use. So yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna do. There's also the distinction between ontological and ontic, which I kind of sort of started with as talking about Dasein, because ontic is a regional version of ontological. So ontic is just one particular type of ontological scenario. So that is also that concept of thrownness and what constitutes Dasein, what different sorts of necessary contingencies there are for Dasein. I don't know what exactly to write my paper on. There's a few questions, but I think I'm going to do what is Dasein, because that seems easiest and most memorizable. But I don't know exactly what question to do. I won't try to think of that on camera, but yeah, so yeah.